Hey there. How are you today? Actually, I don't care. I'm forced to say that by the company I work for. Hey, I've got a parcel for you. I don't think I ordered anything. I don't know. It says it's for a proper deck. That'll be you. Yeah, it's Piper Doug. Let me see that. Piper Doug. I don't know what to tell you. Well, I think there should be a security question. Should be tall, handsome. Says tall and useless. Seems about right. I don't know. I just work here. Yeah. Awesome. Welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video. Welcome to the Shire Farm. We are a beef cow-calf operation. We also are a commercial bale sales farm. And we are a more traditional style beef farm. We've stopped using corn to feed our cows. We actually go with silage made from alfalfa, and then the rest of the cow's diet is predominantly grasses and alfalfas. So this is to talk about Bauman cattle oilers. So yeah, we run 120 cows, cow-calves, 4 bulls, typically 5, depending on if we're on a transition year. So we run 4 half pens. These are smaller pens, and then these larger 3 big pens, and we're in the middle of some remodeling. So right there is the original Bauman cattle oiler that we bought, I'm going to say about 6 years ago now. So 6 seasons. And the horizontal brush you're looking at is the original horizontal brush. The vertical brush was switched 2 years ago. So the horizontal one got used for 4 seasons, and that was it, worn out. So in 4 years, you're changing out one brush, and they're not very expensive. That's great maintenance in my view. So yeah, all you do is you fill the tank with chemical, gravity feed, and I'll be talking about how the system works as far as the chemical getting to the brush, because the cows use the vertical brush to scratch on, and they'll sort of walk under that brush, and that's where the chemical comes from. So I'm going to show you the newest brush that just showed up in the mail. So this is what you get when you purchase a Bauman cattle oiler. Yeah, it's not a very big box. It'll fit in most vehicles. Back seat of your car, back of the SUV, and quite easily in the back of a pickup truck. Goes without saying. So yeah, big shout out to MFG. It was at this point Piper Doug knew he screwed up. Manufacturing out of Ontario, Canada, good Canadian company. So yeah, we're going to get into opening the box and what all is in the package. And here you go. This is it. It's not a lot to it, and that's the great design, is there's not a lot to it. The more things you put to things, the more things to go wrong. That's how I look at it. So, what are we looking at? Here you have the wall mounting bracket. It's fairly straightforward, self-explanatory. Most of the time you'll be mounting this to the wall. We have it in a couple of different variations, and I'll show you that in one of the next clips. So yeah, you just get some, I don't know, 9/16 screw bolts and just fire these right into the post. You can pre-drill them if you want, it's not necessary. So these bolts marry up to these holes, so it has quite a lot of adjustability, and I'm going to cover that in one of the next clips on how useful that is. So this is a horizontal brush, so this is what will hang out below the tank, and this is the whole kit and caboodle behind the system, is this little valve. So as the animals scratch themselves on this thing here, and it will get coated up with hair, and it's meant to. As it gets coated up with hair, and this sort of kind of gets matted in, so then the little nozzle, as they rub on it, opens up a valve in there, and it drops the chemical onto the material, the wick. So then this becomes saturated. So as you'll see, it comes out in there. So then it comes along one of the springs, comes out, goes through the hole, you'll go back in through that hole, and then there's a valve right there. That way you can set the speed at which it'll come out. This is a vertical brush, so this will mount down here. So this stands out from there, this mounts out here. It'll become easier to explain when you see the other ones we have in the next clip. And that is it. That is the short and skinny of it. You got the instructions here. Yeah, we got a cow that looks like that. So yeah, you just open the lid, it's on a spring, and you pour whatever you're using, whether it's a water-based, whether it's an oil-based. We've actually run all. Water, we've actually used sunflower oil, and we've used diesel. It's up to your own preference. And whatever chemical you want to use in it. Whether you're using an actual chemical or whether you're just using like a liquid garlic or some such. All equally as useful. So that's it. Yeah, it's one hand and done. So if you pull up alongside in your pickup truck to fill it, one hand, pour the jug in, done, and walk away. There's no screw in the top with the pipe wrench like on the other oilers. And that is it. Just do a quick tip over. So, sorry about that, it was a little loud. So yeah, that's it. So don't worry about this because it's always protected. It's inside this and the animals are never near this. So when we go to put this together, we'll show you what I have found to be quite helpful when setting up this stuff. Okay, we'll go and show you our other ones because this is slightly different. So yeah, we are in the middle of summer. It is 30 some ungosh known number. And here we see in its natural habitat one of our oilers. This is one of the most recent ones that we put up. These went up just last year. This one did, actually. So, this harkens back to the adjustability. Now, why is this so high up? I am a 6'5" person, and I'm looking at it eyes on. Now, it might seem odd considering, but we actually have just piled our pans just in the last few days. As you can see, it's draining. So this was where it needed to be when the bedding was here. You can see by the mark. So now what we do is we undo these two bolts. It is better if you have two people but one person can do it as long as the tank is empty. That's right, Jerry. So yeah, you'll just pull one bolt out. You'll get the other bolt, keep it in your hand, you'll slide it down. It will come away from the wall if you're not careful, but you slide it down to whatever hole you want to do. And for the most part, that's it. So one of the things that you'll notice on this one is that we've actually drilled extra holes. These are the factory holes. We actually drilled other holes because these are only 6 by 6, which is technically 5 inches, just over 5 inches by 5 inches. So a little bit too narrow. So all you do is you drill another hole in there. Just make sure it's big enough to get the head of the bolt in there. Those are the 9/16 socket size screw bolts. So yeah, that's all it is for them. And that thing is solid. This one has had a bull. Actually, this bull is Hereford, and we have a Black Angus in the next pen. He was in here also. They've both been at this one. So, and that is half a year. And I haven't been cleaning this one out, actually, hardly any. So, this one is due to be filled up, so. But, the animals are out. So, we'll go to the next. So, as you'll notice, this is a single spring wipe. And one of the issues when you're running a bigger bull in one of these setups is this. We've noticed a couple of times that when they get going quite aggressively on these, they can actually turn these. You'll see the mark here. So basically all you do is it's a 3/4 inch 19 mil wrench. Just slacken those off and it just turns back over and then clamp it down. I have been meaning to do a video on an improvement where you turn this back to where it needs to be and then you weld a little tab to stop the spring turning. But if you notice in the previous clip, the unboxing of the other brush oiler, they now have twin springs. So if you have a setup where you're going to have more aggressive animals, bigger animals in there, the twin spring is probably your best value to mount it and forget about it. So yeah, I don't know, I need to show you this. Everybody knows how to use a wrench, really. So yeah, that's all it is. It's just turn that, and there you are. So there it is. Now that's 5 minutes maximum. All you need, like I said, is two 3/4 inch or 19 mil wrenches. Put the two bolts in here. Get them both snugged up before you tighten them. Make sure it's straight, then clank away. The brush is just 2 bolts there and there. A deep socket is preferably best for doing this because you can't really get in the bristles with the wrenches, but the wrenches are more for those. So at this stage, what you now do, because you have the hose out through the 3rd hole in this area, is it's going to be like this. So you don't really want to have too much of a wave. A little bit of a wave is pretty good so that way the fluid just has a little bit of resistance before it gets to the valve. So you just give it a little pull, make sure it's fairly straight, and then you sort of line it up with where you want it, and then just give it a little bit of a slack, hold it where you think it's going to go, and then chop it off. And there you go. So that is it. Just, you are now ready to mount the whole thing up. So I'll meet you back out at the field. So this is our summer station. It's at the back of our yard here. We were just over there by the pens. So we have a waterer, which this is the summer-winter setup. The cows were actually just here not long ago. As you can tell, this is a nice shaded area. It's actually 32 degrees here today in southwestern Manitoba, which is blinking hot for us. I know it's laughable to places around the world. So here's the other one. And as you will notice, they just did this over the last 24 hours. Same principle. You undo these, you can see it's scratched, and you turn it. Now, for the most part, it's never an issue, especially when you have the heifers, or you have it in the pens with the cows, like the one you saw that has been in the farm the longest. It's never normally an issue. It's when you bring in bulls to the equation. So that's why you would go with the 93D over the 93, because that gives you the stability where it won't turn versus this. This is perfect, works great in every other application until you get to bulls. So I would recommend, it's not much more money and it gives you peace of mind. This is a very simple fix. In fact, I will show you how simple. Ta-da! There you go. That was literally 2 minutes of my life. I recommend you torque these nuts to about, I would say about 20 ugga-duggas. Should be more than enough. So what we're going to do now is we are going to transfer that one to this one. So what you'll do is close your tap, because when you're not using them, you close your tap. See, like I said, nothing can get in there to mess with that. And as I will show you, grab this guy. So this is what it looks like when you buy them. And then this is all I've done to go onto a riding post. You give them a little bit of a notch, not a lot, just needs to be enough to give it a slight bend. You can use heat. If you have a proper press to do it, great. But if you don't, you're just working with hammers and whatnot, give it a slight notch. Put it over a anvil or a tractor weight and just give it a few taps, and it'll give you just the curve you're needed. So it hardly moves. See? That's actually more, this is moving on the bracket, not the bracket moving on the post. So what we're going to do is pull these bolts, pull this off, and then we'll mount that one up, and then we'll empty this tank into that tank, because this tank is still fairly full. I don't recommend you moving it while it's full, but you can if you are able-bodied or there's more than one of you. But like I said, I'm rather large, so here we go. There you go. A bucket is always handy. I wouldn't recommend changing these out while they're still full of chemical, but how often will that ever happen? So yeah, a bucket is handy, that way you don't do that. That's a Piper Doug thing. Yeah. So what we do now is turn the tap. So that way the valve is open, but now you have to grab a hold of the little valvey thing, and there you go. See? So there you go. So as they start rubbing on it, as you look, there you go. Now don't worry, I'm going to be washing my hands very shortly. So basically after this, you're going to start wanting to set the valve to where your sweet spot is. So what I usually do is turn it back to close. Speaking of why we have this, I'm being covered with flies. So back to closed, and then you give it a half turn. And that's usually good to get it started. After that, you can kind of play with it. You'll come back the next day, check on it, and as long as it's staying wet, leave it where it is. If you find it's drying out, give it another half turn on the clock. Apart from that, that's it. That's you, plug and play, ready to go. Like I said, you shouldn't have to do anything with these. These are the D93D. This is the D93, and like I said, it works great. As you can see, wet, lots of activity, but you have to keep an eye on these, because bulls, only bulls, we'll do a number on those. So, and the next big thing is the height. Now that's whatever breed of cattle you got, whatever age of cattle you're running. Right now, like I would recommend that you would mount the bottom screw bolt at around about 3 feet from the ground. That's where I start, because I found that that gives me the most work with the height on straight ground. Now, if you're working in a bed pack area, you could actually go further and say the bottom hole will either be at 4 feet or 4.5 feet, which this is 4.5 feet here. So you could mount it there, because you have so many holes you can come all the way down when you clean out and then work your way back up as the bedding builds up. But that's my preference. Play around with it, nothing's carved in stone. So there you go. So yeah, I would just like to thank the folks over there that make the Bauman cattle oilers. They were kind enough to send this to me after seeing my first video on the original ones. Like I said, I have only great things to say about them, because any issues we've had with them are just, you know, slight, more to do with the animals using it than the actual product. So if you have any more questions, yep, stick them down in the comment section. I'll put the manufacturing company's information in the description. Maybe put some shorts in at the end of the video with some of the other products that are available. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you all have a good day. The cows were here. They just left. Why, they're gonna get a surprise when they come back.